energy.
So I have some questions about environmental impacts. How does the installation of the lines, if it goes to that point, impact the farmers that are along the pathway? The use of the land,
You know,
raising rights, and that sort of thing.
right. And I am not a real estate or a rights of way person, and they're at the next station. It really talks about agricultural operations and the compatibility.
Okay.
But I'm happy to discuss any other questions you might have on permitting or sensitive species.
Help me understand what field activities are. I assume that was where you were talking about environmental issues, since that's what you got outside.
So our team and the environmental team, we're really focused on that project of understanding, the rules and regulations and making sure that we comply with all of them from the beginning. So we're consulting with federal, state, and local agencies. We're doing our field surveys, so that looks at streams and waterways and wetlands. It looks at rare, threatened, and endangered species, cultural resources, as well as agricultural resources. From there, after we do those studies and we understand, what is in the field, we work with the agencies to make sure that we're avoiding or mitigating or permitting the activities that we have. And when we go to construction, we make sure that our teams are complying with those permits, and that includes compliance monitoring. And when construction is complete, we are still on the project, making sure that it's restored to meet the permit requirements.
So I think this is within your scope. How do you manage water runoff issues during construction?
Great. So one of the biggest permits that we have for these projects is your NPDES prop permit, and that manages your construction stormwater. So, you may see different types of best management practices. We call those BMPs. You've probably seen them out along your travels now. Those big, long kind of socks that are filled with mulch, those are called filter socks. Those are sized based on the project to control erosion and sedimentation. So, they filter that water out through them. We make sure they're not being overtopped. We make sure that they're in good condition during construction. But there's other BMPs as well, think of ditches and temporary bridges and all of those things that we use to make sure that we're minimizing that erosion and sedimentation. Construction entrances, making sure we get that dirt knocked off the tires so it doesn't get onto the road. If it does get onto the road, we're doing the street sweeping and cleaning up.
What is the impact in terms of road usage with all the construction going on for the local?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are certain permits that, we are required to get for, maybe it's a driveway entrance or a highway occupancy permit. And both our engineering team and our construction team can help with that. These guys are great because they really know the ins and outs of what every day looks like with those construction vehicles and where they're going.
It's a practical question. 5-6 years ago, they brought a sewer system to the back from my property that's adjoining to my property. The excavation left wet spots that have never really gone away. What happens after the project is over if we find
another
further
great question.
water management issues that didn't exist before?
So, again, our team is on, as well as the construction team and your real estate contact is on until that project and those permits close. And we work with the state agency to make sure that, we have the restoration that brings that property back as practical as possible to the way it was before we started. And again, that practical as possible is the important phrase there. But also, smoothing out those ruts and making sure we have at least 70% regrowth in the vegetation. And we do have compliance monitors that document and review this along the way per those regulatory guidelines. And so those would be, with storm events and that sort of thing.
Noise abatement.
Noise I've heard a lot about. That is not my area of expertise. But our engineering folks that do they don't have the noise. Well, I'm sorry, I can't help you on noise. But Jay here can help you with the construction and really what those vehicles look like in and out of your property.
So I have one more question.
Great.
Habitat fragmentation. This right away is going to be how wide?
So our right of way with, I believe I'm talking about 200 feet. And so, there are a lot of conversations about bifurcating the forest or that sort of thing. There's a couple of things that we look at with that and consider. That provides additional foraging for a lot of different species. Think grouse and turkeys and deer. They really, when that is opened up, they really do have additional areas that they can, eat from. And you do see, we've worked in the past with like the Wild Turkey Foundation because those rights of way they have found are conducive for hunting some species. A couple other things that we find with that right of way is one of the things that's available is in some of our lines we do a pollinator replacement program where we replace that when we go back and restore. We use a pollinator seed mix in some places, and that's really great for all of your pollinator species as well. And then think about the bats, the increase in your insects with the pollinators, and that's really helpful for the bats because that's what they live on and stuff. Yeah, thank you.